Hi, as always, I am back with another video. Today I'm doing chapter number 4 review of Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. I'm enjoying reading this book. I hope you guys are enjoying hearing about it. Without further ado, we'll get into the chapter. The chapter is called Value in Suffering. And really, I think it's about the main things in it are awareness, values, and suffering, how it all correlates. So the chapter starts off with a story about Pearl Harbor, and there's a specific war hero that fought in it, and I mean, we all know how Pearl Harbor ended, but basically the Japanese army took a huge hit. It was kind of a suicide mission, you could kind of call it. And basically at the end of the story, he says that this man who fought on the Japanese side realized that after all of these years and whatever, that the war and the suffering that kind of went along with it was semi-pointless. He didn't feel like it had brought much, like there wasn't a lot of meaning to it, and it was a lot of suffering for not a lot of payoff, you could say. And the next thing that Mark goes on to talk about is this thing called the awareness onion. He talks about our awareness as being an onion, with lots of different layers to peel back. And he said that most people don't know why they're feeling the way they do. This, I think, is a really key part in just personal development in general. It's hard to fix problems if you don't know what the problems are, and awareness is a huge part of that. Recognizing when you're feeling down, when you're feeling mad, when you're feeling irritated, and what things are causing that. Then Mark goes on to say that the why questions shape how we define success, failure, and personal values. So, why am I feeling this way? Is it because of how I'm defining success, how I'm defining failure, or what my personal values are? Why? And what is, the cause of this? And he also says that, our definitions of success, failure, and our values, they underlie everything that we do and are often nurtured by our parents. And this can be a good or bad thing. There's so many books written about, how to get over things that your parents taught you or affected you in your childhood. And there's just things that we can't help picking up. And it's often very good to just assess your belief structure and system and how you see failure and success, because that could be why you're feeling so down about yourself, because you think success means $1 billion, or you think failure is just being wrong once in a while. Those types of categorizations can be really detrimental, and if you change the categorizations, you change how you feel. And then next, kind of going along with this, I'm just gonna scoop in a little quote that I liked from this chapter, and it's on page 79, and I think it really cinches it all together. Mark says that values determine the metrics by which we measure ourselves and everyone else. If you want to change how you see your problems, you have to change what you value and or how you measure failure and success. So that's basically what I just said, just a little more clear. And I think that's really key in understanding this chapter. Then he ends off the chapter with defining bad values, basically detrimental values that will, cause bad problems and unhappiness, because you can't really fix these problems if you have these values. So let's get into the bad values. So the first bad value is pleasure. He says that, it is the most superficial form of life and thus easiest to obtain and lose. There's a lot of, criminal activities that are based off of pleasure, different sexual, criminal sexual things, oh, it just like felt really good to kill the person. I don't know. Addictions. But basically, if you're just seeking pleasure, first of all, you're gonna be unhappy because in life, it's like impossible to just be feeling, you know, pleasurable and happy. Because like we just learned, life is like a little roller coaster. You got the yin and the yang. It's not a constant. You can't just be like, oh, I found happiness. I'm just going to be happy for the rest of my life. Nothing's ever going to change. That's impossible. The second bad value is material success. So if anyone's taken a basic kind of economics course, we know that as we consume more products, with each product, our utility for that product goes down. So basically, if you have one set of oven mitts, it's going to be really useful to you. It's going to have a lot of utility because it helps you not burn your hands. But if you have 5 sets of oven mitts, you know, the extra 4 pairs aren't really going to be that useful unless you wreck the first pair, because why do you need 5 oven mitts at once, you know? Unless you're in like a big kitchen at a restaurant, but for your own personal life, you probably only need like 1 set of oven mitts. I don't know why I chose that example, but we're gonna go with it. He also talks about how utility in general goes down once basic needs are met. So people kind of ask like, oh, why are people in Africa or certain countries, because not all Africa is poor, but why are people in poor countries like so happy? Well, I mean, often, you know, just because they have food, water, and some shelter, those are some basic needs, and you know, they're happy. I'm not the best example there, but what I think is most meaningful about this concept is that anyone who's watching this video right now or has, you know, food, water, shelter, clothing, those types of necessities, you now know that you have the ability to be happy. You have the necessities. You have all your needs, basic needs met, and the rest, you know, you can be happy. You can feel you have utility in what's around you. Yeah, so like, no excuses kind of thing. The next bad value is the value of always being right. First of all, it's impossible. We're humans. We make mistakes, so that's kind of stupid to have as a value. And also, it really stops you from learning from your mistakes, and it can create kind of superstitions and just bad habits, you know. If we go about life, you know, doubting, you know, constantly questioning our belief systems and you know, just aiming to learn, then it's kind of just, it goes better than being like, oh, I know everything, I can't be wrong, and you know, it's just not a good way to live. And then the last one is staying positive. Sounds kind of weird, but let me explain. Basically, you can't always be positive. Let's say, you know, you lose your job and your wife leaves you and your kid dies. Like, you're not gonna be like, oh, well, that's all right. Life's still good. Ha, ha, ha. No. That is basically avoiding your problems, which does not help. Because eventually, you know, it's gonna boil over. Like, maybe you lose all your money and your house is taken from you. What are you gonna do then? Now I'm like, oh, that's fine. I have no food or water or shelter. I'm gonna die. Like, no. Alright, feeling very comical with these examples for some reason. Alright, and then he does end off the chapter with some definitions of what good values are, so we'll get into those. So, some good values that Mark defines, to give us a contrast, is that they are realistic. You know, these are things that are achievable, they're based on reality, it's not like something super unattainable. And then socially constructive, so, you know, it's like a good social thing, whereas a bad value is maybe socially deconstructive. And it's also controllable. I think the most important part of the whole good values is the controllable part, because it, you know, it emphasizes the fact that good values can be achieved internally, whereas bad values are achieved externally. And the fact that it's controllable gives you responsibility, empowers you because control is in your own hands, and you have the control to prioritize what your values are. Which kind of ties back into the whole choosing where your fucks are going to be going, like what fucks you're going to give. Last point really is that having poor values means that you're giving fucks to things that you shouldn't. So yeah, that's all the notes that I have for chapter number 4. Just to wrap up, basically the main message of this is be aware of what you're feeling and what the underlying values and definitions of success and failure are that might be creating that unhappiness. And then, if you realize that, I have a really fucked up idea of what success is, then redefine those things. Redefine your definitions of success and failure, and maybe choose some better values that serve you more realistically. And just go from there. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this 4th chapter of Mark Manson's Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. I enjoyed reading it, and of course letting you guys in on this great information. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite lesson from this chapter was, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace. We're back with a 4th chapter, where I am reviewing, I don't have the book with me, I should do that. Whoops.